Hi and welcome to the table here at the Dice Club in Nottingham. I'm Steve Raine.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
I'm Windle.
And today we're talking about our top 5 games that surprised us in a good way. Now I picked my list based on games that I went into thinking I don't like this mechanic, or I don't think I'm going to like this, there's too much theme or not enough strategy. and games that after playing them I think actually that was much better than I thought.
Yeah. So usually it's games you don't know anything about. It's like, you look at it and think, this might be okay, I guess, but then you play it and you're like, oh wow, this is actually really good, much better than I was expecting by looking at it. Often you get a first impression, don't you, when you look at a game.
Sometimes the artwork puts you off, or just the box cover even.
I think I'd consider myself an omni game, as the current term, isn't it, of fashion, which is I pretty much play anything. I don't really have anything I dislike, so it's very unlikely I'd say, like Steve, I don't like it because it's too Yuri or too themey, because I'm kind of open to everything. So these are kind of top 5 games for me that I didn't expect to like as much as I did for one key reason or another.
Yeah, I've gone down that route as well. Some games I think, I'm probably going to enjoy this, and then at the end of it I think, that was really good, So I've gone down that list, and I've ranked my list in terms of the number 1 game is not necessarily my favourite on the list, it's the game that surprised me the most.
Biggest surprise,
So that's what I've done. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, and now that we're agreed and you know what all our lists are about, we'll go on to number 5.
Marvellous. It's number 5.
My number 5 is a game that on my list is probably the one I thought I disliked the most when we started playing. We played it as a favour to someone else. It's a game Jonathan owns, and it's a game called Bausack. And Bausack is a game where you've got 2 different types of pieces. You've got white and maroon pieces, and you're trying to build a tower. And whoever builds the highest tower wins. And you think, well, I built towers out of Lego when I was 5, and there's nothing special there. But the bit in Bausack I really liked. The tower building aspect just didn't appeal to me at all. We were just playing for fun. But the bit I liked was the betting. You've got this different sort of betting mechanic where you can say, I want to build with this piece, and people have to bid to take it off you. Or you're saying, I don't want to build with this piece, and people have to pay some of their chips to not take it themselves. And that just made the game 2 halves to me. The tower bit was incidental to the betting bit. I know some people like building the tower, but that betting game I just loved.
I really like dexterity games, but it is quite polarising. A lot of people don't like dexterity games. But this one really stood out for me for exactly that reason. And it's not just the dexterity game. As you say, there's a limit to how much enjoyment you can get from stacking blocks. But it is very tactical, isn't it? Because you've only got 10 gems for the whole game. So in terms of how many times you can bid, you're very limited with your resources. So if someone gives you a piece you don't want and you've got to pay 3 gems not to build with it, it might be horrendous for your tower, but 3 gems is a huge number of gems.
You can't get them back.
Yeah. So
once they're gone, they're gone. And if you've got no gems, you're at the point where you have to pass, effectively, because the people just wreck your tower.
You're stuffed at that point. No, it's very interesting.
Not played it, but it does seem cool. A good way of doing it, like adds more to it than just the building games. There are quite a lot of at the round at the moment. What's the other one that released? Can't think of it. Junkyard, which is the other big Junk Art.
Yeah,
that's the one I think is recent. But
I think dexterity games for me have to grab me with. So I played Rampage, or Terror in Meeple Cities, it's called now. And Ice Cool, and Rampage, your dinosaurs destroying buildings. Ice Cool, you're flicking penguins that curl around corridors. And even though all 3 of them are dexterity, those 2 just appealed to me more than this building towers. They just didn't look very good, and I was pleasantly surprised.
All right. My number 5 is a racing game. Now, we joke a little bit because there's a friend of ours in our gaming group who always seems to bring racing games whenever we meet up to play.
Different one every time.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll ask him what games he's brought, and a couple of weeks back he said he's brought a game called Flamme Rouge, and we kind of looked at each other and went, is that a racing game? And it was. So I'm happy to try new things, more or less, whatever they are. So we played Flamme Rouge, and it's a cycling racing game. So you're just racing around a cycling track, but I'm not a huge fan of racing games generally, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I think it's my favourite racing game. I really enjoyed it. The mechanic I like most about it is that you've all got exactly the same hand of cards. Or deck of cards, I should say. There's quite a few of them. And you're drawing out of these, and they each have numbers on which to tell you how far you can move your cyclist. So maybe you have a 5 and you move your cyclist 5 spaces. But if everybody's got exactly the same hand of cards, you're all moving effectively the same number of spaces all the way through the race. But the thing that makes it really interesting for me is the slipstream mechanic. So if you finish exactly 2 spaces behind somebody, you can slipstream into the gap. And whoever's at the front of a group it gets tired from all the wind in front of them, and so they have to take an exhaustion card, which is a 2. So when they draw it later on in the deck, your deck cycles as you play. You're having to play this 2 potentially, which is going to really slow you down. You want to play your higher numbers, but you can't necessarily. And those 2 mechanics worked really well. It's very simple, but there's plenty to think about, trying to eke out every little bit of movement you can. I really enjoyed it, surprisingly so.
It's a game to play with the players, less so than a racing game in many ways. It's not about being the quickest, it's about optimising against what everybody else is doing, so that you don't get blocked moving in. You can use your full movement, or you position it so you get that extra space. So you're always thinking, what do I think everybody else around this table is going to do? That's what makes it better than just a general racing game for me.
Yeah, it looked good. I hadn't play it, but I think the mechanics in the game just fit really nicely together. It wasn't complicated at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a go one day, I'm sure.
Because we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? The thing about racing games a lot of the time is they're just so slow.
Yeah.
Which
makes no sense.
That's right. It's a racing game. It should be quick. And this one is so simple that once everyone knows the rules, you can play it really quickly. And so that made a lot of difference to me.
Some of the racing games, you get faster as you get on. You get better equipment for your car or whatever if you're doing the automobiles one. But this one, you get tired. You get worse as you go on. So you become less efficient. Panting to try and get over the line. So in that respect, it's probably slightly different to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
You did feel like when one of us had lots of the slowest tired cars, and it was like literally pedaling just to keep up going up the hill, and it was hilarious for what is essentially a French cycling game. It should be funny, but you just had that perfect image of I can't keep up, guys.
It's very good.
My number 5 is Santorini, because like I said, I'm generally Omni gamer, but I guess abstracts are probably the least likely if I was going to choose a single area. But I'm still happy to play them. But Santorini just works so well. I mean, I heard it was decent. I looked at it, yeah. But the 2 things that really caught me about it. I mean, the actual general building the towers and being around is fine. It's all right. But the powers make it really cool and add so much variation in it. And I've never played this other than as a 4, and I really like the 2-player rules. The unspeaken, but we need to optimise based on each other rules. I think adds another element to the game. And yeah, it's just that. It's simple, it's fun. You can play with anybody. The powers can be quite crazy and quite complex, and I just can't really put a fault against it, really.
It's pretty, but I'm not a huge fan of abstract games generally, and if it wasn't for all the powers, I really wouldn't be interested. The basic game itself is fine, but adding all those powers, and there's so many of them, and they make such a difference to the game, that variety really sells it for me. I do really like it. It's well done.
I do like abstract games, and I haven't played it yet.
What?
I know. I'm sure I'd like it though. I'm sure I would. So.
You just play it without the powers.
Well, I never. It's number 4.
All right, my number 4 is a game that I really should have expected to like, and I honestly can't remember why I wasn't that sure about it at the time when I got it. This is Lord of the Rings, the card game. Now, this was actually on my top 5 2-player games. I do really, really like this one now. And I love Lord of the Rings, but I can distinctly remember that I wasn't sure whether or not I'd buy it. I think it's the LCG nature of it. It's a 2-player cooperative game, but you have to potentially keep buying packs. And so maybe I was put off slightly by the cost, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it that much to be willing to buy a new pack every month or whatever it is. So I ended up buying it second hand, which is very rare for me, and usually if I like a game I want to have a nice copy of it, but I was very unsure about this when I first bought it, and I don't know why, because I absolutely love it. It's great. So I ought to have liked it, but I just distinctly remember being unsure. I think it was maybe the 2-player co-op. I wasn't sure if that was going to work too well, but thematically it's really, really strong. So if you want that Lord of the Rings feel, it does a great job of that, and it's much better than I was expecting it to be. So that's why it's on the list.
I think neither of us have played it, as I said previously. I agree with you, the LCG format can be an off-put. Everybody goes, like an example to, it's a bit of a diversion, CCG go, well, CCGs you pay to like stay, to keep in with it. With LCGs, you kind of feel like you need to buy everything that's been released because it's available. I think that adds a stress onto it. So I can see why you'd think, well, but at least you go try, and it was worth buying.
Oh yeah. No, it's difficult for the completionists.
Yeah, that's the.
If you really need to get everything, it can get very expensive. So.
suppose it's different to Netrunner where you kind of compete. It's a competition game, while it's more of an LCG. The cooperative means it's not.
I think if you want to take Netrunner up and you want to go to those tournaments, you just have to have the most recent cards. Whereas, I mean, you don't need to buy anymore. You've
That's
got
right.
that game.
As long as the person you're playing with is up to the same level as you, as long as you stay together, it works really, really well.
Again, my number 5 is Pandemic Legacy.
4?
Oh. My number 4 is Pandemic Legacy.
Wasn't that your number 5?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, because I like the idea of the legacy thing, but I played a decent amount of Pandemic, and it was kind of, I've never been a massive fan of it. It's fine, I enjoy the puzzle to it, but it just never really grabbed me that much. But I thought, I've got to try it. It's the big hot thing, and it's got the legacy element, and it made Pandemic fresh consistently, and the fact that the plot line running behind it, and all the new things that appear in it, and just all the shocks, and just the whole legacy thing meant that I actually got to enjoy Pandemic. So that's why it surprised me, because I thought I'd like the legacy bit, but I thought the Pandemic bit would be weak enough to be maybe lukewarm on it, but yeah, just blew it out of the park.
It's a really good choice, I think, because I would be very similar to Mark, really. I think Pandemic is good, but I've played it so much, and it's really very light, that I'm not going to get that excited about playing it. And so I played Pandemic Legacy for a similar reason. Everyone was going on about it, so I'll give it a go. But enjoyed it much more than I thought I would enjoy it. So yeah, it fits perfectly on this kind of list, I think.
Yeah, I think I've missed the boat with that. It came out just at the time we were opening the cafe and sort of thing. So all of my gaming groups have played it in different. You've played it.
Yeah.
You've played it. Rob's played it in a different group. Andy Pelton's played it in a different group. I just don't think I'm ever going to get to play this.
It is a lot of time at the end of the day. That's always the difficulty with any kind of legacy game. Is there's a big time commitment up for it to play all the games.
They asked me to join in, and they said, "Would you be free this time every week?" I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I haven't got the time, I'm afraid. So I'd say no. So I've not actually played a legacy game.
Oh, okay. Season 2 is coming out.
Yeah.
So you have to play that when it comes along.
My number 4 is a campaign dungeon crawling game, which for me is amazing that I've actually got one I like, and I like it so much mainly because of how friendly it is. It's played with chibi miniatures, and that's Arcadia Quest. And if you know my taste in games, you wouldn't even bother suggesting, Steve, do you want to come and play this, because I probably wouldn't be interested. We played it. It just looked great, and it was funny. Your characters died, and you laughed about it. You said, "Oh, how can he die again? He's my biggest guy," or whatever. And they just kept rolling blanks or whatever, and it's great. You just go around with these cheapy little miniatures, trying to complete the missions while also trying to kind of sniper out the other people's characters just to get points. And once you've done it once, you don't need to do it again, so they don't feel that vindictive. You have to do it, anything like that, and you get a little bit of money to upgrade your character round after round, and you get these super powerful characters that can still die, and you still laugh at people when they kind of hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to try this.
I know.
It's good.
Rob suggested recently, actually, do I fancy playing a game? And I was like, yes, I want to play the
You'd
campaign.
love it.
Yeah, you would.
But-
And you can play it with Noah.
Because
It's of a level that I
Okay.
think anybody can play. It's
All right,
very
great.
easy.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth it, and it just looks
hilarious.
gorgeous.
It does look good.
It's kind of, I like Mechs and Minions for the same reason. It just looks gorgeous, and I think that kind of does. Even though you might think I don't like the theme behind some things, when it looks that good, you kind of just can't help but swayed into liking it.
Oh, okay. Weak spot.
Extraordinary. It's number 3.
So my number 3 is a game I didn't think I'd like because of the theme, but the game was much better, and that's Twilight Struggle, which we've talked about quite a lot recently. I'm not a fan of modern warfare-y / anything from maybe World War II onwards-ish. I just don't, the theme just doesn't work for me. I don't know any specific reason. There's no reason I shouldn't, I just don't. But maybe because of the Cold War part of it as well, and the fact that the game is so good. Twilight Struggle is just a fantastic game, and the quality of the game just made it all disappear for me. And actually kind of enjoyed going through the modern history and that sort of way as it went through.
Yeah.
And maybe it is because it isn't literally guys going around tanks. That's the bit that I put it off.
Okay,
and I assumed that it was going to be of the ilks went further than that, but the Cold War bit was fine in the end. And I mean, on a similar-ish and talking about recently, like Twilight Imperium is inside a Cold War. It's saber rattling, so I should really like it anyway. But
It's more political, isn't it, than warfare?
and I think I'm fine with that. I just assumed that I'd the whole thing.
You thought it would be a bit more like Risk, or more similar to Risk, where you're actually physically fighting people?
No, I knew it wasn't. I think it's an entirely thematic thing. I think I just put the two into this one category, and that it's obviously I haven't got an issue with Cold War and the political side. I think it's more just the real warfare.
I think I went into that liking it a bit more, and I think I've just hit my expectations. I think it's a good game. I definitely do, and I think it's mechanically very strong. I mean, I think the theme just helps it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, after playing it, yeah, definitely.
It had been sold so much by other people that everyone was raving about it that's why it didn't surprise me.
Yeah,
I really like it.
That was me too.
But everyone said it was great, so I was kind of expecting to really like it. But I can understand if it's the theme puts you off, why
So
that
the
would make
box cover alone is just enough to make me go.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's a game from. I mean, if they redesign that game now, the same game that could come out today, but the art would be different, the box would be different. It would just.
It's GMT though. If you look at
I don't think they
GMT's
will.
games today,
Look
they're
at
still
Thunder
up there.
Alley.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're talking about
true.
it. I mean, I don't hope this is somebody else's list, but on the same reason, I nearly put Concordia because of the box cover.
When I said earlier about art, you might not like the look of it to start with. Concordia's box is just so bland.
Horrendous.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
My number 3 is a cooperative hidden traitor game, and it is Battlestar Galactica Light. It is Dark Moon, and I played Battlestar Galactica first, and I thought, yeah, it's just a big waste of time. I did enjoy playing it, but it was long. And Dark Moon it's Battlestar Galactica Light. I thought, it's not even going to have the complexity of Battlestar Galactica, but it has all the good bits about the. You suspect everyone because they have to submit negative dice and things like that. You do suspect people. You know there's definitely a traitor right from the get-go.
Yep.
And people roll, and they try not to overham it up, and you think, oh, sorry guys, I've rolled a 2, mine's 2 again. And you're trying to work out if they're acting or if they're not, and all this sort of stuff. And it's the speed in which it plays, and the fact that you can distrust everyone right from the get-go. It had all good things about Battlestar Galactica that I liked, and it was just much more streamlined. So that's why it surprised me, because I didn't think I'd like it.
Okay. That mechanic of rolling the dice, but it's hidden behind a screen, works so well because it is very easy. The good numbers aren't very common on the dice,
Yeah,
so it's very easy to roll badly. And you look at your dice and go, "Oh, I haven't got anything good this time, guys. I'm sorry." And
you've got to say, even if you're honest, you've got to say it in a way that I've got to be as honest as I can here, and you act.
You've got to convince people that you're not the traitor, because, I know it's bad, and I know it's bad my last roll as well, but I'm really the good guy.
It's happened to everybody.
Yes,
We've all sat there going, oh God, I have rolled these dice, haven't I? Yeah, it's definitely a more streamlined Battlestar Galactica. I mean, if you know the players and you do it well, you probably get it done in an hour and a quarter. We've had longer games, but they were a full complement. Like a full complement, BSG we gave them longer. I think I always say about it, I love the game. The only thing is you have to lie as the traitors from the get-go, while BSG you can bide your time, which can make it a bit more deception. But I agree on Steven's part that it's a much more streamlined, probably a better game to start people with something much more.
I think people will like Battlestar Galactica more. Some people actually like the story side of it, the long, drawn-out story, and have this big experience throughout. I just like the good parts of it are pulled out. Yeah,
the theme can draw people with BSG as well.
Yeah,
and I think Dark Moon is a better game. Okay. All right, my number 3 is a game that, when you look at the artwork, you think this is a kid's game. It's very cutesy, but I'd watched a review that said it was actually a good game and much more strategic than you might think.
I guess this.
Yeah, go on then.
Happy Pigs.
That's right, Happy Pigs. And we'll put the pictures up. You can see the artwork. It looks like something that's not going to have any kind of strategy at all. Effectively, you're just farming pigs. You sort of buy pigs at the market, and then you feed them to make them bigger, and then you sell them for higher prices, essentially. But the mechanic that I love, and I wasn't expecting it to love it as much as I do, is that there's only 4 possible actions you can take each time, but they're kind of mutually available in the middle, if you like. So you could feed your pigs as one of the actions, but if 2 people try and feed their pigs, there's a certain amount of food, if you like, to go around, and you're going to share it between those 2 people. So the more people go for a particular action, the worse the action's going to be, because you're having to share it with everyone else. And it just works so well. Yeah. It's a very simple game, but the game, like we were talking about earlier, you're playing the other people, you're not really playing the game, because it's simple enough that you can look around what everyone else is doing and go, Okay, he's going to go to market to sell his pigs. He needs to sell the pigs because there's this disease phase that kills them off. So he's going to sell them before they get killed. This person's going to be feeding their pigs. I'm not quite sure what he's going to do. And so you're constantly planning, trying to work out, he's doing this, what's the best action for me? It might not be the best one for your particular situation, but you might get the most value out of picking it if no one else picks it. And I love that mechanic. It works so well.
And other people are trying to work out what you're going to do. So they work out what you're going to do and do the opposite of what you thought they were going to do.
That's
and
right.
You clash.
You get that extra layer.
So he brought this out with 4 of us in the RPG room. And he brought this out. I'd like to play Happy Pigs. I've just bought it. It looks good. And literally every single one of them just went,
really?
What? And he said, it's going to be great, going to be great. And to be honest, this should have been somewhere on my list. I didn't consider it, I don't think. It didn't pop into my head as I was going through my ratings, because I had that initial kind of, really, Jonathan, this looks like it's for 5-year-olds. It looks so kiddie, it really does.
Yeah.
Even the components and the fields and what you have to do, you have to grow pigs and sell them. You're like, how can there be any strategy there? But there is a lot, and it is actually a really surprising game.
Because there are some games where, like heavy games, where if you can take account of what everyone else is doing, you know, worker placement, for example, you can work out where they're likely to go, but they can be so complicated, there's just too much to think about. You can't plan all of his turn and her turn, as well as your own turn, so you can't that interaction where you're trying to guess where people are going, it doesn't really exist because there's too much to think about. But Happy Pigs is simple enough that you can spend most of your time thinking about what everyone else is going to do, and it's really, really good.
Sometimes it's better to take a choice that isn't optimal for you, as long as it's as long as nobody else is going to pick it.
No one's going to pick it. Yeah.
I think when I've played it once with you, I think it was 3-player, and about 2/3 of the way through the game, I had a clear lead. But then I kind of ended up, my strategy hit along with somebody else's at the wrong time, and it just fell apart while you kind of shot forward because you
getting the actions by yourself is key.
Yeah,
it's a great choice. It really is good.
Spiffing. It's number 2.
My number 2 is a deck builder. Now, I didn't like Dominion, and so every time a deck builder comes out after that, I'm a bit wary. I generally think, it's going to be another one of Matt's, someone I work with. He just buys deck builder after deck builder because he loves the mechanic, and he's bought quite a lot that I just think, it's okay, but it's just the same rehashing. So there are a few deck builders I like, but the one I really like is Paperback. Paperback is a game that Jonathan owns. It is effectively Scrabble with a deck builder, and I like Scrabble, but I lose to people who are very good at it because I can't get those. It's when you put like the word joint alongside the word onyx and you've got 80 points because of all these 2-letter words and whatever.
Yeah.
But I really like in Scrabble making the longest word possible out of the letters I've got. You know, whether you give someone a triple word score or whatever, I just like doing that. And in Paperback, I get to do that, and it's worth the most points for me. So you're kind of building your deck and building your deck. You're making a word, you're using the word to score you money, and using the money to buy new letters. And you can buy single letters or double letters. So you can buy ST or a vowel, an E, and so on. The vowels aren't worth anything, but you're trying to make the longest word you can every time. You draw some cards up, and when you make long words, you can get to draw more cards next time. And it's just really, really good. If you like deck builds and Scrabbles, and I think both of them are okay by themselves, but together it was great.
It's one of those unusual games that manages to pull people in from 2 different genres, I think. If you like word games, you'll like it. If you like deck builders, you'll like it. And those are very disparate genres, really. And to pull them together and do it very well is certainly surprising. It is very good.
I think I like it better than either of the other 2 categories it came from. I like it better than word games, and I like better than deck builders because it's got the parts I like from both of them together.
I think that's fair. I've played it a few times. It's just a lovely game. It's another one of those games I keep saying where you can leave it out because you can attract people who are not gamers to play Paperback.
Yes.
The comboing might be a little bit lost to them initially, but it's word building but you've got limited hands.
My family will play it quite happily.
A good deck builder will still do better than someone who's good with words, I think. Because the deck building part is key to making the good words.
You need to understand the deck building to do well, certainly.
But still, you think, the people who are like making good words, and you think they can make some, ridiculous word, and you go, what the hell's that? And you go, it's a tree in South Africa. And you're like, oh, okay. And they can get these complicated words that you wouldn't have got otherwise. But, the deck building side is key to doing well at it. So,
Yep. All right, my number 2 are we on?
Yeah.
Is... Okay, it's a light card game, trick-taking game, and usually when someone says, we've got a light card game, trick-taking game, would you like to try it? I'm like, okay. They never really inspire anything much into me. I usually enjoy playing them enough, but I never expect them to be that good. But Hanabi blew me away. I really like the mechanic. Firstly, it's cooperative. I love cooperative games. But that idea that you're holding a hand of cards that you can't see and everyone else can see. So you're trying to give each other clues as to what they've got in their hand. You can't tell people exactly which cards they've got, only the colour or possibly the number. And then you're trying to play the cards. And each time you play it, like, is this the card I think it is or not? Oh, phew, it is.
Everyone else has got to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
That's right. I just loved it. It was so different from any other light trick-taking game that I've ever played. In fact, I say trick-taking game. It's not actually a trick-taking game, is it? No. Sorry.
I was going to guess teach you when you start saying trick-taking game.
For me, it sort of falls into that genre though. But Hanabi stands out head and shoulders above the rest. I absolutely love it.
A couple of games have tried to do similar things, like hidden information where you're the only one who doesn't know what you've got. But Hanabi just does it better. It's just so simple. I knew I'd like it going into it. I knew I'd do it, and I love it. I think it's a brilliant game.
Yep, it's a brilliant game. I love it too.
Okay.
My number 2 is another deck building game, though it's not his deck building game. It's Tyrants the Underdark.
Yeah.
Because I think deck builders, there is a lot of deck builders at the moment, and it's merging it with an area control game on a board, and you go, and the Dice Toad actually given it a relatively poor review as well, which kind of also put me off a little bit, just because. But yeah, tried it and just blew me away. I mean, it merges the two things together so well. It feels like both of those games. It feels like an area control game, and it feels like a deck builder, and you need to optimise on them both at the same time. They're both, I mean, certainly the area control is slightly streamlined. I guess the deck building probably is a little, but because you've got the 4 different decks, it gives the options to mix it up so you can have it simpler or more complicated ones. And yeah, it didn't think it'd get those two things to work together so well, but it definitely did.
Yeah, I mean, that was my other deck builder that I was surprised with, those two, that and Paperback. I wasn't going to put 2 deck builders on the list, but that is a great choice, because I think it is, if you're not a fan of deck builders or just looking at it to start with, it actually is a really good game behind it.
Yeah, it was certainly a big surprise for me last year. I'm a bit jaded when it comes to deck builders these days, but it sort of freshened up the whole genre for me. It did it really well.
By Jove, it's number 1.
As usual for the number 1s, we are on the Between Two Cities cards. We have about 8 left because we've used a lot of them already. Mark, if you'd be so kind.
The central one. It is alphabetical by first letter. Current favourite game.
Current favourite
game.
Oh, this is a whole other list.
Oh, okay. Current favourite game. I'm going to go you.
You? Oh, we've got to guess what the.
Oh, no.
the game is.
If we have that list later. You.
All right, it's A for me.
T, I guess.
That's you, me.
Okay.
I kind of want to know what the games are now. All right, my number 1 is a game that I've played as a child. Played it absolutely loads as a child. And then when I moved away from home, it sort of stayed in my parents' games cupboard. And I didn't play it again for 15 years probably. And then they were having a clear out and asked me if I wanted it. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe that'd be fun to play. But I was kind of aware, you look back a lot of these games with nostalgia and you play it again, you're like, oh, actually, this is rubbish. It's just a kid's game, and for an adult, it's no fun at all. But Sorcerer's Cave was actually really, really good fun. Okay. It's a game where we actually had 2 sets because you can't play it on a table. There's not enough space. You have to play it on the floor, which is great if you're kids. So you have these large rectangular tiles, and it's like a tile placement. You're building a map of a cave, like a dungeon, and they all sort of connect together properly. But each time you draw a tile and stick it down, and if it reveals a cave, then you get to draw monsters, or treasure possibly. It's just a big deck which mixes monsters with treasure. So if you're lucky, you might just get treasure and you get to keep it. You might get a monster with treasure and then you have to fight the monster to get the treasure. You can get heroes sometimes who you have to try and persuade to join your side. But if they don't like you, you try and roll the dice, then you have to fight them. And it's very light really. You're building up your party. But the interesting thing is you find stairs occasionally. So if you're on level 1 and you go down the stairs, you then start a new level. So you go to another space on the floor. This is why you need loads and loads of space. And you start a new tile, and that's the beginning of level 2, and then you explore level 2. And in level 2, you draw 2 cards for each cave. Level 3, you draw 3 cards for each cave. So the further down you go, the better chance you have of getting lots of treasure, but you also have a bigger chance of getting lots of monsters that might wipe out your party. So there's always a bit of a risk. and essentially just trying to get as much treasure as you can and get back out before it gets too hairy. You can have earthquakes which will block off the tiles behind you, so you have to find another way out, and sometimes it won't necessarily connect because you're drawing random cards. I mean, it is a kid's game, and it's not the kind of game I would play with adults, I don't think. But I played it a lot with my son, and I really liked it. Never mind he really liking it. I just thought it was great. So it's one of those that surprised me because the nostalgia, it wasn't just nostalgia. It is actually, I think, a really good game. So I'd highly recommend it. You can maybe pick it up off eBay or something like that. But it's something, if you've got kids, I strongly recommend you play it with them. It's great.
Surprisingly, I've never played this.
I might change my number one to the surprise that Jonathan chose. Still Swiss Cave.
Yeah. Oh, that was definitely left field. Yeah. Okay. Well, bring it along one day. Mark,
it's me. My number one is my favourite game that I don't own, and so kind of wish I did own it. That is A Study in Emerald.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, it's another deck builder, but it's a deck builder with a hidden traitor that lasts with an amazing end game scoring. That essentially you have to be the best player on the winning team. So if imagine there's a 2v2 and they're both in this game on opposite teams, because you don't actually know, in theory it can be 3v1 in the way it works out. So not only do you need to win, you need to make sure your other person isn't last, otherwise you will not win.
Yep.
And so it does that. I love that. The hidden roll works quite well because it's only the first couple of rounds. It's not, because you work out relatively quickly you try to work out relatively quickly who's on which team. But there is definitely deception there, and you're definitely doing a few dodgy things. The deck building bit's fun, if not amazing as other ones.
Slightly incidental.
Yeah. But as a whole, as a game, I just really enjoy it, and I really wish I kind of owned it. I should really buy it.
That mechanic's great. If whoever's last eliminates their team, so you can be first by miles. But if you're not sure if the person who's last is on your team on it, you can't end the game. You can effectively decide when the game ends, and that mechanic alone just makes that game, really, really good.
Because you sort of want to keep it secret to a certain extent whose team you're on. You don't want to make it obvious which team you're on. Because if somebody thinks you might be on their team, they don't want you to do badly.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can get people not quite helping you out, but certainly not doing you in. That's right, because they don't want you to be last, potentially. So it's very clever.
If you make it too open and you're on the team with the fewer people, you just get punished. You just get attacked and attacked. Yeah, it's a great choice. My number one is a Dexterity game. We played it at the UK Games Expo 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that is Crokinole.
Yeah.
And Crokinole is it's just flicking discs onto the board. And we had so much fun. We had so much fun, and you think, wow, it's just flicking discs. Oh, I've knocked yours off. Oh, you've knocked mine off. I've knocked yours off. Oh, I missed. But it's great. It's great. It's so great that they have world championships on it. It's competitive to some degree.
Yeah.
I think if you have a Crokinole board, you'll treat it like a labour of love because they're so expensive.
They're not cheap.
And I just had so much fun playing that. I thought, it should be a little go. Just basically curling on a board. Not too keen to try it, but there was 4 of us, and they invited us down to play, and we had a blast. We played it the same year. We played Codenames at the Expo, and as we were leaving, we all said, "What's your favourite game of the day?" And 3 out of the 4 of us said it was Crokinole. It was that good, and that's surprising. Even though Codenames is a brilliant game, and we were really excited for Codenames to be released, Crokinole was my favourite game of the day. It was great.
You need to get a table in.
We do, I've always thought that. I just think about how I would feel if it got damaged.
You'd have to look after it, and you need to constantly keep maintaining
you have to buffing it and waxing
stuff.
it.
Do you?
It's not just...
okay.
Yeah, so you'd have to look after it, and so if I had a lot of games around my house, I would buy one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think because I think it's that fun, but I don't know. My gaming's all here, and I'm not sure if I want to spend that much money for something that might get damaged.
I regret not putting it on my list. I didn't think. I just didn't think. I was thinking. This
is the only crossover I thought we'd have with this game.
That would have made my list if I thought about. Every time I walk past an empty Crokinole table, I will go and play on it.
Yeah. Oh yes, definitely.
And because I play in 15 minutes, and then you walk off, and then you walk past the same Crokinole table again, and then you go and play again.
I mean, to be honest, to some extent, if I was by myself, I'd go, I'm just going to sit down and see if I can get in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep, definitely. I think probably one of the best choices.
So, did you have any honourable mentions?
Not much. I find it difficult to come up with many for this list, I have to say. Tyrants of the Underdark, certainly.
Yeah,
The only other one really would be Dominion, actually, because people tend to be quite mixed about it. Some people rave about it, and some people really don't like it. But I was surprised when I did play it at how much I liked it, but that's the only other one really to make my list.
One I made my list I didn't put on for various reasons is Magic the Gathering, because I've known people playing that. I've known friends of mine playing that for years, and I played it for the first time a year ago, and I was hooked. It was great. I thought I had whatever. It's just for Pete. It's just for that sort of person. I'll play it for a bit and I'll walk away. But I haven't walked away. I've loved it so much that I've started playing. Yeah. That would be good. And to some extent, the Oracle of Delphi. Stefan Feld.
That's true.
Because I love so much better than you.
Well, I love his games.
And then when you expect it to be good.
Sorry? No, because I love his games. And when you say it's one without points.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You think, oh, hang on, it's one without points. Oh, okay. I do like him as a designer.
Actually, when you say it's a racing game, you do kind of think,
it's not a race. It's a race game, or pick up and deliver game.
Yes.
And that just kind of think, oh, hang on, this is a bit weird for him. And I had doubts going into it, thinking, even though I thought it might be good, I wasn't sure, and then it exceeded my expectations. So that was possibly another one I could have picked. I assume that's the one I thought you'd have on your list of mine.
Yeah, it is my favourite of his by quite a way.
It must have surprised you to some extent.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
Another bike cycling game I've only played once. I need to play a game which you got there on Ride from Bright, just because it is actually very good. It doesn't look great, but it was very fun, and we need to learn the rules and play it properly. But there's no English version.
German, isn't it?
There's no English version of it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think everyone's made some great choices today.
Yeah,
apart from you're the one that still teaches.
I'm still
You've got to try it.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised at your choice, not the game itself. So yeah, okay. Well, thanks for joining us anyway. Our top 5 games that surprised us in a good way. I've been Steve Raine.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Windle.
And thanks for joining us at the Dice Cup, the table at the Dice Cup. If you have any comments, please post them below. And if we missed any games off you think should have been on our lists, please mention them with a brief reason why not to. Thanks very much. See you later.
Bye.